What used to be normal in the past, but fricked up now. Buggery in boarding schools. C.S. Lewis, the famous Christian author, wrote about it at his private boarding school. There was an organized system of tarts, younger boys, who would perform sexual favors for older boys in return for protection against systematic bullying. He regards it as normal and not particularly shameful. It was just part of the British elite's education during the imperial age. Sounds like prison. Drill in some skulls without anesthesia. Let them demons out. Reusing the names of newborns who died young. My grandmother was one of 22 children. Birth control. Kids, but only 16 survived to be adults. All 6 children who died young were middle children, and all of their names were reused on subsequent children. In fact, in theory I have 3 great Uncle Jims, because the first 2 passed away. The great Uncle Jim who lived was awesome, though, and my great great grandmother joked that she was glad he was the Jim who stuck around. 22. Goodness gracious. Marital rape. It used to be that the woman's vagina must be available whenever the husband pleases. Hey now, that's been illegal in Ireland for almost 17 whole years now, and in North Carolina for, like, maybe 5 or 6 years, and in Minnesota it's only been illegal for a month. What the frick? Just showing up at someone's house, early 90s, happened all the time. Now, don't do it. I think I approve of this culture shift. BTW. Yeah, I have this weird anxiety where I need my house to be spotless for people to come over. I would not want to keep my house to that level of clean all the time in the off chance that someone might show up uninvited. Letting young kids stay outside playing for hours until the street lights come on without knowing where they are. It's not really f'd up, but it's definitely not normal now. I moved to Alaska around 3rd grade. During one of the first weeks up here I went to go join up with the other military kids because they know friendship is passing and don't care if you're new. Well, my parents told me to come home when the sun went down. Next morning I came home to confused parents who thought I simply skipped dinner and went to bed, and I was equally confused as to why there was breakfast made and not dinner. Not buckling in your kids in the car. My sister and I spent 12-hour road trips playing and sleeping on the floor of our minivan with the chairs taken out. Now if you don't have your kid properly buckled into their space rocket seat, it's neglectful. On our yearly fishing trip, my dad and his friend sat up front in the truck while me and the other kid were in the bed of the truck with sleeping bags. We had a topper, of course. We weren't savages. We drove for over 8 hours like this. Lindsay Lohan. I was about to say Jude. That was never acceptable cause I completely forgot that she actually had a career. Oh my. Murdering criminals in gladiatorial combat. Those were the days. Actually the gladiatorial combats are more like boxing, unlike what people thinks. It's not as gal and is quite civilized. People in the olden days be like, hey, let's just fry this man inside a metal bull in front of children. LMAO. This was one of the more shocking realizations I had from reading Better Angels. In all of human history, it's only a very recent thing that watching a stranger die in horrifying ways is considered anything but great entertainment. Using Internet Explorer as your default browser, i.e. exists solely to download a new browser. It doesn't even do that anymore. It's all Edge now. Using asbestos. I worked at an old factory in Toronto years ago. In the stairwell they had these signs on the exposed pipes that said asbestos free. This company was famous for holding long, seemingly mindless boring meetings, followed by a Q&A session. For shits and giggles I asked, with a straight face, who do I talk to about getting some of this free asbestos? Owning people. There are more slaves in the world today than ever before, mostly children and sex slaves instead of farm workers. There are a lot more people. Percentages are a better representation of the trend. I know this isn't exactly the worst thing, but Jello mold salads. Lime Jello, present in almost all of them, mixed with mayonnaise and literally anything. They put olives in freaking mayo jello. What in the actual frick was the 50s? Marrying a young girl when you are king or head of a church. Henry V. I was 49 when he married his 5th wife who was 16 or 17. I feel so bad for Henry's wives, especially the later ones. Maybe not Anne of Cleve so much, since he annulled the marriage and declared her to be his sister almost immediately, and she had a pretty good life after that. She was friends with Queen Elizabeth. When I was born I came home from the hospital on my mom's lap in the front seat of a Camaro with no seat belts and my dad chain smoking while driving. My earliest memory is of riding in my dad's Corva with the top down. I'm in between the two front seats and my mom is holding my infant brother in her lap while dad drives. Just a few years later we were all locked down in the back seat with massive Ford car seats. Answering the phone when you don't know who is calling. I picked up the other day. It was the eyes. Luckily they called me just in time as they were entering the federal courthouse as I was about to be indicted. To my good fortune, I was able to pay them off. Disaster averted. Edit and disclaimer, I didn't know I needed to do this, but apparently I need to clarify myself. This was a joke. Please people, do not ever send money to someone you don't know under any circumstance. If you owe someone or some entity money, you will know about it. Abusing the mentally ill. I mean beating the autism out is still common practice in many places. And those quack medicine cleanses that crazy people will give their kids which sloughs off part of their bowel mucosa, bleach, which I guess is technically a cleanser. Airline passengers used to dress up for routine flights because travel by air was considered fashionable. If you watch old TV and movies, people used to get semi-dressed up just to eat dinner at home. I think it was Naked Gun when Leslie Nielsen says, "Let me slip into something more comfortable," and it's another suit. Yes, while she's boiling a whole chicken. Hilarious scene. You need to know something. You can join the new Discord for nothing in return. Link in description.